peak. Yeah, after finishing Arcane, I just had to make a video about this season. I plan on making a video for Act 2 of this season, but of course I didn't get around to it. I'm not going to waste any time with this vid, so let's get right into it. Oh, and this will definitely have spoilers for the final season. This might seem out of order, but act and get into overall season. Episode 7 is my favorite episode, and that's mainly because we finally get the Echo and Powder romance. Being able to see its alternate dimension was never a thing I would think would be shown in the show, but it was definitely something I knew I wanted. As a fan of the time bomb ship, it was cool knowing that in this dimension or alternate timeline, Echo had a relationship with Powder already, and being that Echo has had a crush on Powder for years, and him being able to have that relationship here when he couldn't in his own timeline was a mix of happy and sad emotions at the same time, because we knew he had no intentions on staying there, and he had to go to be the savior of his own. While Echo is going through the bad stages of time traveling, when he shows up, we also find out that Heimendinger is there and has been there for over 3 years. I love how this episode not only shows Echo's point of view, but also Powder's for a little bit. With Vi being dead, that was the main reason for why she isn't doing as much with her brilliant mind and wanted to stay comfortable in the bar, but Vander keep telling her that she can do more. The only thing that it seemed like she did with her smarts was helping others complete their inventions, which Echo brings up when he takes Powder to the tree to show her the mural he had made of his version of Vi as an apology for what he did before. This moment in the episode is great because you get a nice interaction with these two that just can't help but make you smile, and it's also when Echo says the line,
"Sometimes taking a leap forward means leaving a few things behind."
What do you want from me?
When he says this to Powder, it is special in a way because he's saying this from his own experience with letting go of her, and it's like a conversation he would never be able to have with Jinx, at least before this. So when he accepts his apology, she also agrees to help him create a way to get home, but of course she doesn't know that it's for him to get back to his own timeline. And they show this with a wholesome montage of Echo, Powder, and Heimendinger creating a new anomaly, and this is how we finally get Echo's Z-Drive. No, I didn't forget about Jace either. I did enjoy the backstory they gave for why he did what he did in episode 6, and I could definitely say it was valid, but compared to the other stuff, it didn't grab me as much as Echo. As he's going through this wasteland, we see the figures he would get flashes of in episode 6, and they end up chasing him until he falls down this pit, and it is a horrible fall, and we also get to know why he has a brace on when he shows up in episode 5. When he finally gets out of the hole and climbs his way up to the top of the Hex Gate, he sees himself and the mystery person that saved him and his mother in episode 1 of the first season. That's how he was able to get back in episode 5. I have to circle back to Echo, and when he attends the party after completing the Z-Drive, him telling Benzo how much he loves him was so heartwarming, and to later see that Silco and Vander are friends was a shock, and that most likely means that he ended up finding the letter that Vander wrote to him that Jinx saw in episode 4? Or no, episode 5 too. And this all leads up to the best part of the episode, which is Powder dancing with Echo while Mom in the Air Enemy plays. I don't know how to pronounce that, I'm not French. After looking up what the lyrics of this song means though, it definitely makes this scene hit way harder. The choice to slow down the frame rate was beautiful, and I'll never get over it. Echo and Powder sit on this ledge while looking at this view that was shown in season 1, and Echo talks with Powder about how he gave up on trying to save Zahn, and at least how he got lost in trying to save Zahn, and how he gave up on her. And he's clearly talking about his Jinx. And then we finally get the kiss between these two. And he says, can we pretend like it's the first time? Which is also like a hint to the fact that Echo and Powder are already together. So he wants to be like this to be like his first kiss with her. And it's just so great because you could see the emotions in his eyes before this happens. Then we go to the final few scenes of this episode with Heimerdinger finishing the machine to send them back and to the main timeline, and he ends up sacrificing himself while telling Echo that he enjoyed his time with him. And I didn't think Heimerdinger was going back anyway, but I thought it was going to be like he was going to stay here because he's been here for over 3 years, and you talk about Echo will grow to like it because he's already grown to like it. We can see him enjoying this when he's playing his ukulele or guitar, but he ends up dying. Then we go to the later part of the episode showing Powder, and she places this necklace inside this drawer labeled Vi next to these shards, and obviously she's not gonna do anything with it, but it's just like so cool with the writing, from the writing point of view, that she had these shards and it's like she's not going to do anything. She's not Jinx, you know? So I just love that detail that they added. This was my favorite episode, like I said, but the final act doesn't let up off the gas pedal at all, as episode 8 starts off with showing Mel escaping from the death of the Black Rose as she unlocks her powers as a mage. We also get to see the after of what happens in episode 6 with Vi and Jinx, and we learn that Jinx has been put into a cell while she actually turned herself in, because at this point she's like gone after Isha died. She was like Isha was the one thing that was bringing her back into sanity, and now that she's gone, there's nothing else for her to keep going. So there's a scene where she has this talk with Silco in her cell about breaking the cycle and how one of them has to walk away, and Jinx ends up taking that as she has to kill herself, which we see in episode 9. But when Vi tries to go free her and tell her that she can do good with her brilliant ideas, Jinx just doesn't think there's a good version of her that could be made, and there's no saving her at all. So she punches Vi and locks her in the cell and leaves. But then it's a crazy jump in mood, because Vi is with Caitlyn and they have this crazy sex scene afterwards, which is like very, very much, I'm not against it though, but like for the co-creator to say this is like a less version of what they were planning to do is crazy. This episode does a great job of hyping up the final battle that takes place in episode 9. Like Victor starting his glorious evolution and showing the capabilities of what Mel can do with her mage abilities, and then bringing forth the new alliance between people from Piltover and Zahn, and all that just really shows out in episode 9. And oh my god, episode 9 is just straight gas. It does a good job of like letting you know this isn't easy going at all. You don't know who's going to win at what point, because it makes you really get invested into this like it's realistic. And I would say one of the best moments in this whole episode is when Echo and Jinx pull up Oh my, yo, the music, and then the shot of Jinx just laying down in the chair was perfect. Chef's kiss, right? And then for Echo to run off with the rest of the Fireflies and just zoom out to save the rest of the people in Piltover was just amazing, bro. And then, as I said, there's casualties that happens, right? So Loris dies. It's like, I mean, are you supposed to feel anything? Loris had Loris had no character at all in this season. But Maddie is also someone that dies. But before that, she becomes a traitor and is like, oh my god, we hate you even more now. It's like, we thought you being with Caitlyn was crazy. No, we hate you more now because you were a traitor, right? And then even the impact frame when she tries to kill Caitlyn shows this evil smile. And for whoever caught that, for the people that caught that detail, you're a goat. For the later act of this, to show Victor in his new glorious evolution and him fighting Jace was so crazy. And Warwick comes back to fight Vi and Jinx, and that is like, out of the three main fights that's happening in this episode, that is the less hyped version, because we've seen it once, and it's like, we already know what we're gonna get. We're gonna get two emotional people that's fighting their dad. And as I said, there's three fights, and the other one is between Caitlyn, Mel, and Mbessa. And oh my god, Mbessa is a force to be reckoned with. Like, no holds barred at all. Caitlyn definitely tried. And then Mel was definitely an MVP. She was protecting everybody. She tried her hardest to protect Caitlyn. And Caitlyn ended up sacrificing her own eye just to get a lick on Mbessa. And for Mel to have the time to bring her to the Black Rose. And I had no idea that Mbessa was going to die. And I wouldn't have thought she was going to die like this. It's just like such great writing, bro. They don't miss. And going into the main big fight that it weighs on the rest of Runeterra itself is between Jace and Victor. And I've seen people say that the change between Victor's character is pretty like grand, because he was really thinking about human evolution, thinking about the better humans. And now in this part, he's just like, no consent, I'm just going to take over. And I don't really have a problem with it, but I can see why people is like, this is like a crazy shift in character. But at the same time, he's a whole different person too. So that's why I don't really hate it. And during this fight, we see why Echo was called the boy savior. He is the true MVP of this entire show. Once again, Echo steals the scene. He uses his Z drive to its fullest capabilities, and the way they animated this was so spectacular. Him going back in time, and then even the times where it didn't show him fully going back in time, they showed him reappearing in the place that he rewinded. Chef's kiss once again. And for him to have strong willpower once they get him to set the clock back, to set the time back even further than what it's supposed to be, taking a huge gamble on everybody's lives, was like so hype, bro. It was extremely hype. They made Echo a loved character by many. There's not a person I know that hates Echo. He is the boy savior, the boy who's had her time. I'm not gonna go into a full glaze, but as this fight ends, Jace and Victor are like intertwined right now in minds, and the conversation shifts into Victor seeing what Jace saw when he was in this alternate timeline, and finding out that the person that gave him the runes was Victor himself. It was shocking, but at the same time it was like there were 3 people that we were guessing it could be, and Victor was one of them. So after Echo throws his Z drive into Victor, he gives Jace the chance to like get closer to Victor so they can actually stop what he's doing. And that ends up being shown in this beautiful animation of Jace and Victor working together to stop everything that Victor set out to do. I truly believe that this is like, they can't do any better than this. This is truly perfection right now. And then after they fix that, they're gone. Like, I'm assuming they're dead. So they go back to the Hex Gates and like where Vi, Jinx, and Warwick was. After they were grabbed by Warwick, they fall down and Vi is on this platform where she's next to Warwick. She has this jump that she can easily make, and Jinx is telling her, you can make it, but she just doesn't do it. She's taken over by her emotions for Vander and tries to like talk to him, and of course that doesn't work out. So Warwick tries to take her, and Jinx, being the hero she is, she saves her sister. And this is where the sacrifice that a lot of people thought were coming ends up happening. And of course I'm like, why didn't Vi just make the jump? But I could truly understand she's in an emotional state right now. And Jinx sacrifices herself by taking the hex core out of the hex tech out of Vi's gauntlets. And there's this big explosion after she takes the grenade out, which is crazy because even after Echo decided to save her, when he came back and had this conversation about this people that we need to make changes for,
That no matter what happened in the past, it's never too late to build something new. Someone worth building it for.
that whole scene, this still happens. She still ends up killing herself, but for the life of her sister. And then we get a cut to everybody mourning the people that were lost during this whole war, showing Echo in an emotional state as he burns this paper that definitely represents Jinx. He did all of this and still couldn't get his happiness. All this, and he still couldn't get the one person that he longed to be with. Out of everything, this is the emotional thing next to all of the grand of emotional stuff that happened in this entire show. And then you see Vi and Caitlyn, and Caitlyn is actually looking at this maps of the hex gates, and everybody knows at this point, everybody has deciphered like that Jinx is still alive, because they're not going to show this for no reason. So Jinx is alive somewhere out there, because a key detail the animators love to do with Jinx is show this pink streak every time she uses her super heightened speed that she got from Shimmer. So she's alive. She's definitely alive out there somewhere. And another thing that points to that is the blimp that we see at the very end of the episode before it says the end, which is something she saw in episode 1 and said, I'm gonna ride that one of those days. I know you guys heard this many times, so that's what I'm saying. I caught this off of someone I saw on Twitter. Yeah. Overall, the season was great. The series was great. This stamped Arcane is my favorite show of all time. And no, I promise it's not recency bias one bit. I truly think this is the best piece of media that I've seen as a show. And I'm lucky to be someone that is a fan of Spider-Verse, as if to have Spider-Verse my favorite movie and Arcane to be my favorite show, because these editors do not miss one bit. I've been on TikTok scrolling and I've seen crazy edits of Echo and Jinx, or Echo and Powder, or just Vi, or just all the characters, and it hasn't been missing. But I know there's many shows and talks with Ionia, Demacia, and of course Noxus, with how they showed the crow that belongs to, I think his name is Swain or something like that. So there's going to be more shows we get from the stories in the Nations of Runeterra, but I would still love the people that we've seen of Piltover and Zon. So they're most likely coming back. The co-creator, when his talk with Necrit, said the relationship between Jinx and Echo, and how Jinx can be like a hope for Zon, something like that, is important for this continuation of their story. So maybe he's saying we might get more Time Bomb. I don't know. I love Time Bomb. So that's all I got. Hey, if you love Arcane, leave a like on this video if you actually liked it, But bye. Peace.